All right. Right. The next thing I want to talk here is, so all of you are clear with what processor, why I have to do the tokenizations? Is that part clear? Right.
Sir, there's a question.
Once, yes, please.
So I wanted
Please ask
to
me.
ask about the tokenization. Like when we run the code, so
Mhm.
basically it happens on the back end, right? We don't
Hmm.
have to do the tokenization. Like it's basically how the process goes on with the SAS, right?
Yes, the tokenization, everything will be taken care by the SAS. It will happen in the background.
Okay, okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Right. So we don't do anything related to this, like we don't segregate and all. It will happen in the background itself. So once the tokenization is completed, right? Post tokenization, SAS enters into another logical space called PDV. PDV stands for Program Data Vector. Program, remember this keywords and all. Program Data Vector. PDV is also a logical space and is part of RAM. This is also a logical space, right? This is also part of the RAM. After the tokenization, SAS enters into this particular area. This is called heart of SAS, heart of SAS processing, because this is the place where SAS builds the data set. This is very important. This is the place where SAS builds the data set. This is the place where SAS do all the execution. So this particular place is very, 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 very important, right? So now I'll be moving from your input buffer to the another logical space, and this logical space is nothing but my PDV. I can call this as program data vector. This is called my program data vector. Very, 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 very important thing. So please be mindful from here onwards. Okay. So what will happen here? I said that this is the place where SAS builds the data set, right? Now the question is, I have three processors and I have the code related to two processors. So which one will start first? So SAS will start with the data processor, or it will start with the macro processor, or it will start with the proc processor. Which processor is the high priority? Remember, in my code, always the first priority will be given to macro processor. If any macro related code is there, it has to be executed first. My highest priority will be always go to macros. Is that clear? In the
So
macros
there's
class, I'll tell you. In macros class, I'll tell you why. If you don't resolve your macro code, you will get a lot of errors. So first macro code need to be resolved. That's the reason the first priority will go to macro processor. If any macro code is there, first it will resolve. After that only it will choose data processor or proc processor. Is that okay? Then between these two, is there any priorities or something? Honestly speaking, no priority between them. I can say no priority. SAS executes in the order the statements are present. I'll tell you what is the meaning of this. The meaning of this is between these two, I don't have a priority. So in my code, this is my code. Which one has come first, data or proc? Data, right? And also you can see this one. Let's say I'll add all the 4 parts of the code. You can see there are 2 data blocks and there are 2 proc blocks. So how SAS need to execute now? SAS will execute. I don't have any macros here, right? So first SAS execute this. This is the first one. First code to execute, or first block to execute, or first step to execute. Correct? So SAS is going to pick data processor first and it will execute this. Am I correct? And then that is here, this part will be executed. Let's say this is completed. After after this particular part is completed, what SAS need to do now? The next step is proc, right? You can see the tokenization. The next step is going to be proc. That is proc print part. So now it will move to this place. It will execute this. So what you need to understand here, SAS execute the code in the order in which it is present. So in my given code, first I have a data step. So first the data processor will kick and only the first block will be executed. It won't execute the second block here because after the first block, I have proc. So now SAS will move to this. From here to here, it will move to this. That is, it has chosen the proc processor. Just give me a second. So this is my first block. Let's say if this is going to be considered as my first block, this is going to be my second block. This is my another block. Let's say this is the another, but technically 4 blocks are there, or 4 steps are there. So this is my first step, correct? This is my first step. After successful execution of the first step, SAS will move to, in my code, the order is this. You can see in my code, after data student, my next thing is going to be proc print data equal to student. So I need to move to the proc processor. So this is going to be my second block. So my SAS travel from the execution will be travel from here to here. Let me put it. Am I clear? So this is the process. First here to it will move to the proc processor. After that, then this is going to be my third block, right? In my code, this is going to be the third block, right? So I need to go to the third block. So I need to go to the third block now. So SAS will move from processor, proc processor to the data processor again, correct? And it is going to start from here and it will enter to this. Sorry. Yeah. So this is my second thing. So I have to start from here and I have to go to 3, correct? So this is the lineup. This is the process from data processor to the proc processor, again from proc processor to the data processor, because in my code the third step is going to be the data step. And after that, what is the last one? The last one again is going to be the fourth one. The fourth one again here is going to be a, I don't have a proper thing, but I'll try to do this. So this is the fourth one from here to here, correct? So block number 1 to block number 2, block number 2 to block number 3, again block number 3 to block number 4. This is my fourth block. Is that clear, guys? All of you are able to follow what I'm trying to say? You guys able to follow what I'm trying to say here?
Yes, sir.
Any questions? This is how it is going to do. So it is all about how I am moving from one to another based on the code. How the code is exist in the same way I will follow. So 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4. So now all of you are able to understand how SAS move from one process to the another processor while execution. And for this only we are doing the tokenization. This part is clear, or do you have any questions? Anyone have any questions? Kindly ask me.
So I got only one simple question. So the processor is identified based on the proc statement. Is it correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
And is up to the run.
Yes, you can see data between data and run, proc and run, data and run, proc and run. Whatever is in green, these are the proc processors. Whatever is there in the late orange, these are going to be data processors. I have identified this from my code from the keywords. Correct?
Yes.
Even here, if you want to make sure, I can do this. So this is going to be the light green is going to be the proc, and the other one is going to be data. Is that making sense now?
Yes. Yeah. Okay. That's fine. Thanks.
Yeah. Any questions, guys, from anyone else?
Yeah, Murli. Actually, we are saying like the first macro should be addressed or resolved, right? Only if they are
Yes.
present, right? Each
Correct.
program, I mean, like every program may have or may not have the macro variables, right? I mean, like macro.
You're 100% correct. You're 100% correct. See, if macro present, the first preference should go to the macro.
Okay.
If the macro is not there, let's say that the macro is not there, right? Then obviously it will not be like your it doesn't need to go to the macro processor at all, because I don't have anything related to the macro. I don't need to execute anything under the macro, because I don't have anything related to the macro.
Yeah, but
If
is there
only, let's
any
say that I
example?
don't have any proc related thing, then it won't even. Go ahead.
I mean, is there any example that we can put macros thing in here and have an example, or is it just the first thing instead of data processor, first thing will be the macro processor and then followed by data and the proc processor? That's it.
That's it. See, I'll tell you the example. I can go with macro now, but it will be a confusing thing, because you don't know what is macro. You don't know what is macro variable. So that
Okay,
is
then in the module that we get, maybe that time we
yeah,
can discuss. That's fine. Yeah,
yeah,
thank you.
yeah. All right. So now I'm moving to the another place, that is program data vector. This is the place where SAS builds the data set. Remember, only when SAS reaches this place, because by this time my program is syntax error free. Number two, I know what processes I need to execute. And now let's say my first step is going to be the data processor, right? Under the data processor, what I have, this is the code I have, correct? Let's bring this particular code and keep it here. This is the code that I need to execute, correct? So how I have to execute this? What SAS is going to do here? SAS always execute the program statement by statement. Remember this. SAS always execute the program statement by statement. That is the most important thing. Statement by statement. Then this part is clear, right? Execute statement by statement. So now let's take the first statement. What is the first statement? Data student. What I said first? Data. I said for data that data is the keyword to create a SAS data set, correct? So when SAS identified this keyword when SAS identified this statement, it understands that user wants to create a data set called student. That is nothing but a table, right? So it will create one table. So what is the name of the table? The name of the table is going to be student. That is the meaning of the first statement, right? So what is the first statement? The statement will say that, hey, I have to create a data set called student. Done? Every one of you are clear with this first one? I have to create a data set. I'm created it. The first step is over. What is the second step? The second step will say, where is my input file is, correct? So the moment I say infile is the keyword which will represent what is my input file is. SAS will go to this particular location. First thing it is going to do is, it will go to this particular location. This is the location. It will see whether I have a file called student info or not. Yes, I have. It also see what is the extension of it. The extension of it is going to be txt. So whatever the user has mentioned, the same file is exists there. So no issues. If the file is not exists, it will say that I don't have a file. Is that clear? Infile statement will say what is my input file is. So SAS is going to check whether the input file is present or not. If present, no issues. If it is not, it is going to throw an error. Clear? For an example, let me show you. Let's say I don't have in file here. Let me run this. No data lines are in file statement is there. So I don't find a in file statement. I don't find a data lines. I'll tell you what is data lines in the next class, not now. Okay. But data lines is the another input, another input, another input file that I can keep it within the program itself. So my SAS is telling that, say, hey, your in file is not there. I couldn't find what is my input file is. So I thrown an error. Correct? Now come back. Line number 2 is also done. What is statement number 3? The statement number 3 will indicate what are the variables to be part of my output data set. So these are the variables, right? Right? These are the variables to be part of my output data set. Correct? So SAS is going to create these variables in my output. That is in my data set. Let me drag it. Yeah. So these are the variables SAS would like to create in the output data set. Correct? That is what input statement is, right? Correct? So now these are the names according to the name. Sorry, in addition to the names, I also need to create 2 more. What are them, guys? I also need to mention the properties. There are 2 properties. Number 1, what is the data type? Wherever I have a dollar, that is going to be a character. Wherever I don't put a dollar, that is going to be a number. Am I correct? Is this correct? So I have to define variable means I have to define totally 3 things. The name I have to mention, the data type I have to mention, and the length I have to mention. So have I talked about any length statement here? No. No length statement is there. So since user is not controlling the length, it is going to assign a default length of 8 to everything. We know that for a character variable and for a numeric variable, the default length is 8. So it created the variables with a length of 8. Done? Up to this is done. So 3 statements, all the 3 statements it are executed. The first statement is creation of a table. The second statement is verification of your input file. The third statement is going to be what are the variables and their properties. Questions? Any questions? All right. The moment SAS finds the run statement, it understands that this block is completed. All the statements are done. Now you can take your input file and you can start executing it. You started building the data set, but so far you haven't considered your input yet. So far you haven't processed your input yet. So the moment you get your run statement, now you are free to execute your input file. So bring your input file and start building your data set. Only when SAS encounters a run statement, SAS understands that in my given block, all my statements are over. Now I'm good to take the input, either it is a data set or it is going to be an input file, and I can process it. So what is my input file is now? Can I say this is the input file? Now SAS bring this particular input file and it will start executing it. Is that clear up to this? Any questions? Right. Now it is going to process your input file. Remember? Yeah, Mahendra, please.
No, the question is
Go ahead,
about
Mahendra.
the space. The space. I think maybe you are going to tell me next, so I don't know.
What is the space? I'm not getting that.
No, means between the input file data
Yeah.
A1.
Delimiters.
Okay.
I'll talk about it.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll talk about it. Now this is my input file, right? This is my first record. So in my first record, how to identify what is my variable 1 value, what is my variable 2 value, how to identify it? Delimiter is the one which will identify it. Delimiter is something like with what character my input values are separated in my input file. This is my input file. In my input file, what is the separator for each first variable value? This is the second variable value, third variable value, and all each variable. So what is the separator? The separator is space. The separator, technically we call it as the delimiter. The default delimiter for SAS is space. Space is the default delimiter, guys. Space is default delimiter. Other than the space, if there is any other delimiter, you need to explicitly mention that. I'll tell you how to mention it all in the options. For now, let's go with the default delimiter. So now this is my record number 1. So in the record number 1, this is the data. Ideally speaking, this is the data. But this data, whatever the data I have here, this one is a delimited data, right? You can see. So what is the delimiter I said? The delimiter is going to be the space. So these are the values, correct? There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 variable values are present. So I'm going to bring all those 6 variable values here. So these are the 6 variable values which are part of my input, correct? So how SAS taking it? From the position number 1 to till it identify the first delimiter, whatever the data is there, that is going to be the first variable value, A101 here, correct? So from the first position, that is, this is the first position, wherever I have my cursor, this is the first position before A. So this from here to till it identifies the first delimiter, whatever is there, this is going to be the first variable value, right? And then this is my first delimiter, right? From the first delimiter to second delimiter, between that, whatever I have, from the second is my second variable value. Delimiter is there going to be my third variable value. Similarly for the remaining. Am I correct? Do you identify how the variables are identifying, how the variable values are identifying? It doesn't know whether it is a student ID or it is a section or it is a name, nothing. All it knows is my first record has 6 values, 6 variable values. How I have identified that? I have identified that based on delimiter. From the position number 1 to first delimiter, my first variable value. From the first delimiter to the second delimiter, second value. Second to the third value, and keeps going on. Am I correct? Any questions here?
Yeah, means here I got one
No, right?
question. Like, if I have a character which says 8,
Which is saying?
so no, the next one, the next to the character is a 8. Length of the character is a 8. So
Correct.
in the input file, if I have a character more than 8, and if I have specified 8 is a 8 is a input variable, then is going to be
I got
the
your
error.
question. I got your question. So
Yeah,
how to
okay.
handle no. I'll talk about it. I have everything open, guys. This is just a plain and simple example with the right data. right? So what happens if the length is more than 8? What happens if the length is less than 8? What happened for the other cases? Everything I'm going to explain. Everything I'm going to explain. In this case, if I have everything proper, how SAS is going to behave? That is what I'm explaining now. Right? So there are a lot of things. Don't worry about it. I'll explain everything one after the other. Clear? I'll talk about it. So I'm going to the default length now. How to take a control over the length? I'll talk about it. So the next thing here is, let's say, now this is the first variable value, right? So where the first variable value has to come? Okay, before that, in the background, SAS is going to create two automatic variables. These are not part of my data set. These won't be part of my, it won't be visible to us, but these are in the background. These variables, I can call them as underscore n underscore underscore error underscore. These two will be called it as automatic variables. SAS will automatically create this. Remember, these are the variables that we are creating by writing input statement, correct? But these two we are not creating. These two are creating by SAS automatically. What is the reason for this? I'll tell you now. Underscore n underscore indicates, one sec. Yeah. Underscore and n underscore indicates observation number or record number. For the record, first record it is 1, for the second record it is 2, for the third record it is 3, and it keep on increasing. It is just a plain number about the observation. What is the record number? What is the observation number? For the first record it is 1, for the second record it is 2, for the third record it is 3, and keeps going on. Underscore error underscore will indicate data error. That is, by default, its value is 0. The default value is 0. If it encounters any data error, I'll tell you what is data error is. If it encounters any data error, then it will change it to 1. Is that clear? If there is any data error, it will change it to 1. Otherwise, it is 0. Ideal case is I should have my underscore error underscore value 0 for all the records. Clear? Can I get a quick confirmation? What is called underscore n underscore and underscore error underscore? Can I get a quick confirmation from everyone? Right. Then, before it start processing the data, it will assign missing values to all the variable values. Character missing value is blank space, blank space, blank space. For the number, missing, blank space and blank space. Am I correct? We talked about the missing values, right? So what is this? Only for the numeric missing data, it is period, that is dot. For the character data, it is going to be blank spaces. By default, it will be assigning missing values to it. Now, it will take the first variable value from my input file, which is A101. So A101, is it matching with the data type and is it matching with the length or not? It is going to check. First one, A101. It is a character, right? I defined it as a character. Is it having the character data or not? Yes. The total length is 8. It should be equal to 8 or less than 8. Is it matching that? The total length is 4 here. I defined 8. Yes, it is less than or equal to whatever the length I have defined. So this is a valid data. I can have it here. What about the second variable? Section. It's a character. Yes, it's a character data. Length is less than or equal to 8. I can have it here. Right? For an example, the third one is going to be Murali. The total length is 6, which is going to be character. Yes, I can have it. Just for an example, let's say that instead of 15 here, let's say I have some m. Is m is a numeric data? No, right? It's a mismatch, right? Whenever there is a mismatch, the missing value will be remains as is. It won't have that value here. It will leave it as a missing value because it's a mismatch, and it will change the value of underscore error underscore to 1. Is this point understandable? If any non-compatible data comes to the picture, if any non-compatible data comes to the picture, then the missing value remains to be a missing value. It won't allow the data to have there, and it will change the underscore error underscore value to 1. Is this understandable? Questions? Right. Now in our case, it is going to be some 15. Let's say the 15 will enter here because it's a number. It is less than or equal to 8. M is going to be here, and Hyderabad is going to be here. Done. Now it take the second record and do the same. It take the third record and do the same. I have 3 records, and for all the 3 records, I don't have any data errors, and the observation count is 1, 2, 3. Done. My data is available now. You can see this is the second one, right? And this is the third one, right? Right. My data set is completed. My input, I came to the end of the file. I don't have any other records. Then SAS confirms that, hey, I have processed all the records from your input file. Your file is completed. And I have completed the data set as well. I have completed the data set as well. I have prepared the data set. This data set will be exported to a library. Remember? Right. After successful completion of data set creation, SAS export the data set to a library. Right? There are 2 libraries, guys. One, work library. This is default. If I don't mention, this is the default. Else, user defined library. What is this library and what is this work library? I'll talk in tomorrow's session. So since I haven't mentioned any library, it is going to create this particular data set in work library. Can you see? After I execute this, in the log, you can see that work.student, it is creating this data set in work. Can you see this? Student, right? So it is keeping the data set in the work library. So what is this work library? Why it will store only here? And what are the other libraries? How to create those libraries? Everything I'm going to talk in the tomorrow session. Till this, whatever I have discussed till this, are you able to understand, guys? Are you able to understand? Any questions
Yes, yeah.
here? Perfect. So if
There
you're
is a
able to, sorry,
I have one question, sir.
please go ahead.
So I want to ask, like, in the program vector, data set is completed, right? And then it will send it to library, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I said. After successful completion of data set built in the PDV, this entire thing is happening in the PDV. From PDV, it will be exported to your library. That library can be anything. If I don't mention anything, the default library is work. Okay.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Right. Any questions? Let me know, guys. Otherwise, I'll wind up this here. And in tomorrow's session, I'll talk about the libraries first. After the libraries, I'll go with the other options. That is, what if I don't have defaults? That is, anything other than space comes, how to do it. Hello? Guys, can you hear me?
Yes,
Yeah.
sir. Can you ask me again?
Yeah, I lost the connection for just 30 seconds. Okay. So what I'm trying is, in tomorrow's session, I'm going to talk about what if I don't have a defaults, that is, If anything other than space as a delimiter, how to handle it? If my length is more than 8, how to handle it? If I want to reduce the length less than 8, how to do it?
See, sir, I wanted to ask, like tomorrow we'll also discuss like by default the delimiter is space, right?
Mm-hmm.
What happens if the data is containing more than two delimiters? Like the delimiter can be a comma, delimiter can be a, as you said,
Yes.
exactly pipe. Those
Yeah. Yeah, that
the
discussion is there. The discussion is
okay,
there. That's what I'm saying now. What if other than delimiters, other than space has come, what we need to do? We are going to discuss that.
okay.
Yeah. All right, guys. No questions means yes. I can wind up the session today. Yes. And I'm also going to share the notes today. I'll definitely share it. Yeah. Perfect. Thank you, guys. See you tomorrow then.
Actually, very
Same time.
yeah, very quick question. Can I
Hmm.
ask? There is a couple of books has been said with us. Do you recommend anything? Which books we need to use it now, or maybe you can
No, no,
discuss tomorrow, whatever way.
no, no. For now, you don't do anything. I'll tell you when to do,
Yeah.
when to start
Okay.
reading. Till you
Okay.
complete module number 1, you don't need to read any books. I will share some of the PDFs. Those are the SAS Sugi forums, we can say. That is like a global forum for SAS, which will happen on every year. There are some very good SAS papers on that. I'll share those papers. Those you need to read. Okay? Those are easy and straightforward.
That's fine. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. See you
Have a
tomorrow
nice
then.
day. Bye. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye bye.